Welcome to the Limitless Human Podcast. We are your hosts, Natalie
and Cassandra. The mission of this podcast is to help you to honor your human experience on your journey to living your limitless potential.
We post episodes every other Tuesday, and we would love if you would rate and review our podcast, as well as following us on Instagram and subscribing to us on YouTube at the Limitless Human Podcast. We are in part 2 of 2 parts of talking about my Egypt journey that I went on. And so if you haven't had a chance to listen to part 1, I really encourage you to do so. The trip we're about to get into is having flown from Cairo into Luxor. And so it's not required to listen to the first part of this. However, you may find that it's helpful to connect to that first part. The energy of Cairo is so different from Luxor, and what we experienced on our journey, like as powerful as Cairo was, things shifted very rapidly once we got to Luxor. So if you've listened to it, great. If not, I'd highly encourage you to go do that first before you get into this episode. So before we do so, I know talking about Cairo, I wanted to see, Cassandra, anything you want to jump in with or ask or say before I kind of start sharing about, not kind of, I start diving into the journey of Luxor.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting how you've alluded to how almost Cairo was like the prerequisite to Luxor. So if you were to explain that before getting into Luxor, what would that be?
Well, without giving too much detail about the actual experience itself, this was very much of a journey of polarity. There was the quiet and the loud. There was obviously the masculine and the feminine, the sacred yes, the sacred no, the king, the queen, light and dark, ground and water. Like there was just such a stark contrast to the entire journey that Cairo is very much of a masculine experience. And in order for me to have gotten to the place of my intention of not hiding and being my fullest expression, that really required me being my full, authentic, vulnerable goddess self. And in order for me to really be able to lean back and receive, there was so much receivership on this trip. Like it blows my mind how much we received. I really needed to have that structure. I needed to have that safety. I needed to have that masculine energy to make space and to hold me in order to be able to open up like that. And so Cairo was very much of that. There was a lot of healing, even in the 2.5, we were there 2.5 days. The healing that happened in Cairo, like I mentioned in the first episode, there was this it felt very grandfatherly. And when I use the word grandfather, what's really coming through for me is quiet, grounded, stoic, wise, loving in a contained, like supportive way. And I really feel as though it was a massive transformation that happened in Cairo, it was also very subtle. It was very soft and quiet. So yeah.
I have something that just came top of mind. You know how when we're talking about our podcast recordings and like the evolution of who we've become in this process of recording it and sharing it, We talked a lot about polarity, and you spoke a lot about polarity of the darkness and the light, and your experiences the past couple of years as an observer, as someone that has heard your experiences, as your friend, and also on this podcast. You've been in a lot of like the polarizing spaces. So I feel like that was all divine, and that was almost a prerequisite to Cairo. And that's why Cairo could be so quiet, because you've done so much work. Like, I want to acknowledge this. Like, you've done so much work. You've gone to the depths of the dark. You've stood into your light in beautiful moments. So I feel like that all had to happen the way it did leading up to Cairo, so it could be nice and soft
Mm-hmm.
in that experience. So it didn't have to be so dark and so deep and so eerie and so muddy, because you've already been through those
Mm-hmm.
pieces in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
That just channeled down, I want to share.
No, thank you for that. Because, you know, there's a previous version of me that's very anxious, very worried about the future, worried about the plan, wanting to have control, wanting things to go a certain way, getting really stressed out. And looking back, it's very fascinating to me how at ease I was with the stuff that happened. Um, and even there was a very big initiation that occurred. And I remember at one point just being in the experience and like, okay, this is happening. And that was a lot of the entire trip. Okay, this is happening. Like, who do I want to be in this? How do I want to move through this? What do I want my experience to be? And that's not been a place I've ever been in before. And I also noticed how quickly, like, there's one other story that I'll tell. There's two. Well, there's a bunch of stories, but the other one that I'll tell, you'll notice as I'm sharing that I'll have moments of like, ooh, like anxiety, freak out, oh my god, and then but how quickly I fall back into my power, how quickly I fall back into my queen goddess. Okay, like, what do I do? How do I want to help myself through this? Um, and really connecting to my spirit, really connecting to my energy, really connecting to my gifts. Um, it was very fascinating to me how much I embodied that quickly. Yeah.
And that's the word, embodied,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you've, the past couple of years as an observer and what I've seen in you, so much growth because of the polarities, so much expansion. And like, there's just this embodied grace in the way you're describing this trip.
Thank you.
Mhm. So I celebrate you for that. You've done the work, and I think it's because of all the work, the deep work that you've done leading up,
Mm-hmm.
that could allow this experience to be in this easeful, embodied grace for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that I met with my coach this morning, and you know, she tapped into my energy, for instance, coming back to Egypt, and we talked about grief. And she noted that so a lot of my experience, a lot of my magic and my medicine and my gifts is in the void. I connect to the void a lot. And the thing that she solidified for me today is that I live in the void. And so there is no me getting out of it. That is where I spend the majority of my time. My magic comes from there. The work that I do with clients is there. My human, I've noticed my human in the last year or two, as I continue to be in the void, will say things like, okay, but when am I done? Like, when can I be done with the void? When am I going to come out? When am I going to be, you know, where I'm meant to, where at least my human thinks I'm meant to be? And the thing that she told me was that, like, no, that's, you're a void I am the void, right? And so, and it really became clear on this journey that, oh yes, okay, that makes sense. And so it's really meant for me to pierce the void, um, and to, though I'm in the void, here comes Stella. You want to talk about the void? Um, she's like, yes, that's my place too. Is that I talk a lot about darkness and depths and, death and rebirth. And part of me piercing the void is that the death and the rebirth. And there was so much death and rebirth that happened on this journey through Luxor. So I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, let's go. I'm excited to hear it.
So first thing I want to say is that when we got to Luxor, it was an immediate exhale. You want come up here? Come on, come up quickly, because I'm going to start talking, and I don't want you being disruptive. Come on, come up, please.
It's funny how Leo had to be present for the first episode, and now Stella wants to come in for this one.
But no, she's not. Come up here, please. Okay. Well, hopefully she's not too disruptive, everybody. I'm just going to keep talking, and she's going to make her weird noises. Oh, here she is. Okay, hi. So the minute that we landed, we got off the airplane, it was, the energy is so different. So it's right on the Nile. So the Nile, most people call it the Nile, but it's called the Nile. So, or at least that's what locals refer to the Nile as the Nile. And so it's right on Nile. And so there's so much lushness. Yes, you have the mountains and you have the desert where all, a lot of the temples and the burial sites are out in the mountain range. But along the Nile is so much lushness. And it was just quiet and calm. There weren't a whole lot of people. It wasn't all that loud, generally speaking. It just felt like you could just expand. Where Cairo, it felt it definitely masculine and feminine, right? Cairo is masculine, Luxor is feminine. There is such a different energy to it the minute that we got off the plane. And we all three of us noted it. We're like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I can breathe. There's space, like fluidness. Like there was a sense of just like walking on water, right? Versus like hiking up a mountain. It just felt very just that kind of energy. And so we get our bags, and again, we have a person with a sign come, and we get into a taxi, and we are Anara had told us that the first place we were staying was going to be at this palace turned hotel, and didn't realize, where it was, but it's on the West Bank. And so the Luxor city and the airport's on the East Bank. And so we had to take a boat, like a motorboat, across the river to get to our place. And this is pretty common. One of the things that we could have done, which a lot of tourists will do, is the big boats, big river boats. Get on a big river boat, and like that's your experience down the Nile. And it was an option that we could have done, but there's very much of you're boxed in on a boat, and it's like a cruise pretty much. And so we didn't want to have that experience. And so this palace is beautiful. There was a pool. We had our own rooms, but there was like these 3 rooms together in this little courtyard garden. Just the lattice work and the intricacy, and just it was beautiful. Well, but yeah, we had to get across the river in a boat. And so, bring all of our bags onto the boat and get on the boat. And then we get to the dock, and come to find out there's 2 different docks at this location. There's one that goes right up to these concrete steps, and then there's one that's like out across a long path on this wooden structure. And so we come in on to the concrete blocks. And the reason that they have two docks is because the tide changes. And when the tide gets too low, they can't get into the wooden, not the wooden, the concrete slabs. It's too shallow in, so they have to go out farther. But we got in where it was like high enough tide that we were able to get in. So get off and check in. And it was very much of a, we're going to have a peaceful time. And she did another, had her crystal chalice, and we did another meditation, another guided journey that was just really beautiful and really connecting us to Luxor and what we were going to be doing. And we had a beautiful evening. Food there was incredible. Breakfast was just different jellies, different cheeses, different things, and this pita bread that wasn't quite pita bread. It was like all homemade. You got to come up here if you want my attention. You got to come up here. So it was just a beautiful, beautiful location. Bed was hard. Bed was like sleeping on I might as well have been sleeping on the floor. But had my own room, bathtub. It was gorgeous. The next day we went to, let's see if I can remember. And I will say that everything felt like a whirlwind, and I'm trying to remember what happened what days. But I'm pretty sure that the next day was Karnak Temple. And Karnak Temple is a very famous temple. It is one of the, like, I mean, it's a legend. And what I realized because I remember when I talked about in the first episode where the sand was so high up that they built the pyramids from the top down and they moved the sand away, is that also too, right up to the Sphinx, the Nile used to be. Like, and the amount of water that has receded, it's incredible. So when we got to Karnak Temple, he was telling us, like, and you could see it talks about the port. There used to be a port where the river would come right up to the temple. And now it's, we're talking maybe half a mile, if not a mile, like, receded. And in Cairo, there's no river to be found, like, near the pyramids. So it's just very incredible, the landscape that's changed. So we get to Karnak Temple, and our guide is very passionate. He's very chatty. He's like go, 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 go. And I kind of joked because whenever I go hiking with my husband, I'm very much about pictures. And so he'll take off up the trail and I'm lagging behind because I'm taking photos of things. And so here we are, like, they're, trucking forward and I'm like taking photos and having like hurry up to meet up with them. And so I'm missing things that he's saying about the temple. But at this point, I don't really care because I'm just absorbing the energy. I'm just in the space. And the carvings and the detail and the colors that still exist, and yes, there was things that got destroyed and statues that just got beheaded, and a lot of it was really sad to see the human man-made destruction, but a lot of it was still standing. And the stories and the everything that got descripted, or that got, because all the carvings, it's a story. It's meant to be the story of the world. And it was so incredible. And we're standing amongst these pillars, right? And you're looking up, and there's, on the underside of all of the pillars, in between everything is more, every surface is covered with carvings. It was just, and there was 134 pillars, and we're talking, I mean, like, they're huge. I have a photo where we're standing just to try to give scale, and they just go on for days, and you're just a little ant amongst these pillars. And so we're walking, and I don't know what we're doing. As a retreat recipient, you know, she did a really good job of trying to keep us away from the nitty-gritty details and just having us experience things and not know the details because we didn't need to know all the, you know, admin stuff. So, you know, we're walking through and all of a sudden we get to this metal gate and there's this gentleman on the other side of the metal gate and like it's like the seas open and like this gate opens for us and I'm like, okay, are we in a section, like we're getting access to a section that I, you know, but yet I see people walking around. And so I'm like, oh, maybe this is just a shortcut through something. And so our tour guide is leading us and he's leading us and I'm trying to take pictures and they're walking farther ahead and I'm taking pictures and I'm just in awe of everything and looking at everything. And I have this like this awareness that where are all the people? Like there's nobody, I don't see anybody. We're walking on a path by ourselves. And I see a security guard up ahead. And then I see this gentleman in, you know, traditional Arabic Muslim robe. And all of a sudden we take a right and we go down this path. And again, more like it's like an outbuilding, if you will. There's like an outbuilding away from the main temple. And there's just carvings upon carvings upon carvings. And we get to this kind of little in what's it called? Like an enclave. And we're just standing for a second and looking. And all of a sudden we like get taken into this small little building and go through this doorway and then take a right. And then all of a sudden, you know, of course it's dark. And all of a sudden my eyes, I'm trying to like get my bearings. And in this one small room is this life-size statue of Sekhmet. And of course the tour guide has his phone flashlight, so he's flashing so we can see it. And I'm trying to take photos and like because I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, what is this? And come to find out later that Anara had requested a quiet place or something that might be more private in order to do a meditation. Had no idea that we would be given access. And so the tour guide set it up. He made a request to get us access. And so we're the only ones, like no one, hardly anybody gets access. I don't know who was the last time anybody got access to the shrine, but it was a shrine for Sekhmet. And we stood in this room and we engaged in this guided meditation by Anara. And that when you asked me, like, within the last episode, you asked a question about, you know, Cairo being like the where my transformation started. And I said, no, this was it. This was the moment. And this is where it, like the way that Anara guided us through this journey and, you know, me connecting to my dragon self and me standing in front of Sekhmet and the wisdom that moved through me and the wisdom that Sekhmet provided me and just what we did. And I started noticing where like I needed my shoes off. I needed my feet on the ground. And so I took my shoes off and throughout all of the guided meditations and the journeys that Anara brought us on, I found myself engaging in my own energy work. I found myself like really utilizing my medicine, my magic in terms of what I needed for me. And I'm doing it right now, what I needed for me, but also too, what I found myself, you know, giving to the space, giving to the earth, giving to the land. And it was hot when we started. Like when we got in there, she's like, okay, we're going to do a meditation here. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't be in here. This is like suffocating. But the energy in there shifted. It was all of a sudden, even though I'm moving and I'm creating energy, it got cool. There was a clearing of the stagnation of the energy, but also too, when we opened our eyes at the end of it, she was lit up. Like the room was dark and yet I could see her perfectly clear. And
like I took Sekhmet clear or Anara clear?
Sekhmet clear. And I took a photo and I shared it recently. I put the photo on my personal
Instagram.
Instagram. Yeah, my personal Instagram. There's no flash. There's a glow around her. It was just very fascinating. And the room was completely dark. I mean, yes, there was like the outside to like, there was a side room that kind of the light could kind of come through, but it was a completely enclosed room. But yet there's this sense of like a glow. So it was so incredible. And from that moment, well, I mean, there was one other thing that came after that, but it became very clear that Sekhmet had brought us to Egypt and that she was our guide through our entire initiation and the things that we were there to do, and even beyond that. So like she's come back with me and I meant to continue to work with her, but it was one of those moments like you walk out and you're like, that was a once in a lifetime. That there's like, and it was a very small room. So even if we had 10 or 12 people with us, there's no way we would have fit in there. There's no way that would have happened.
No.
It was barely big enough for the three of us. It was profound. Very, very profound. Everything that I received in that room. And then after that.
Well, quick question. So
Yep.
who is Sekhmet for people that aren't familiar?
So most of the time, what people know about her is that she is a warrior and she brings about death. The way that the story goes is that God, Ra, created her as a way to punish humans.
Wow.
Like she was the war. Like she's very big. She's very connected to destruction and war. What people don't understand and realize is that she's also a healer. And so she is the epitome of masculine and feminine. She is the epitome of death and rebirth. She is fierce. She's also like, there's this fierce warrior in her, and there's also this very loving, kind, nurturing goddess. I mean, she is a goddess, but there's this hard side to her and this very soft side to her. But most people, when, especially Western world, most people hear Sekhmet and they, she's to be feared because most people just know of her as the goddess of war. But that's not it. That's very one-dimensional. When I did more reading into and also hearing from people who she's revered. She is revered in Luxor. Like all the temples. Yes, there's Hathor, and there's a couple in Anubis, and there's a couple other, but she is all over. Like she's all over all of the temples. Very much revered, loved. I mean, they have a freaking statue. In one temple that we went to, there's two. But yes, she's loved. And so it was quite incredible to hear. And there's a kindred spirit, right? Because there's so much darkness that I worked with while also like so much light. And all the death and rebirth that I am here to work through. It was just, and me being a fifth line, and I know that there's a level of destruction that I'm meant to facilitate while then allowing for the healing for the growth that comes on the other side of that. And there's a reason why I'm not scared of it. There's a reason why I'm bring it. Like people get scared of death and I'm morbid and very likely because of this connection.
Yeah, I was going to say that because, in the previous episode, you're talking about like the too muchness and how like you're honoring that and trying to figure out like the words to describe it, but like maybe like the misunderstood parts of you mirror that aspect in her.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, exactly. I think I might have written that in my post, is she's very misunderstood, and I relate to that a lot.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Wow. I have
Yeah.
so many chills.
Mhm.
Like when you were saying the whole story about, being in this room and having that meditation, like I felt like I was there. It was
Mhm.
very surreal to hear it, and I want to commend you about how you've been explaining things, you know. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm there. Yeah, I feel like
Well,
I'm there. I
good,
feel like I'm
good.
there, yeah.
Because I felt like I'm like, I don't know.
No, you're doing great. Like, I feel like I've been on this journey with you. I feel like
Yeah.
I've been just a fly on the wall watching it unfold.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So that was quite incredible. When we left there, we went to a papyrus museum, and that wasn't on the trip. Like it was evident that, like, no, this isn't what we wanted to do, kind of thing. And I was fine to leave. I was fine to do whatever. If this isn't what we want to do, then okay. And but no, we'll stay. So we got a tutorial around how papyrus gets made. It was really cool. They had this whole little like setup where it's like, giving us information about it, and it needs a lot of water. Papyrus needs a lot of water. So it's all growing along the riverbank. And they're talking, how they cut it up and they made it into strips, and then it has to sit in water for 6 days or whatever. And then, rolling it out, and then how you put it, together to make a piece of paper, right, if you will. And the difference between, because now there's fake, or there's a different kind of material that's being created, that's being kind of like moldavite. It's like, oh, there's lots of crystals that are now human made that they want to make you believe is something real when it's not. So this was an authentic certified papyrus place. And so along all the walls is like all this artwork. There's all this art on papyrus. And I'm walking around, and and I wanted something that was Isis. Um, and then I saw this one piece that was an ankh, and I thought it was really cool, because when you turn the lights off, there's like a glow in the dark option to it. It's like they're magic papyrus. And then as I'm leaving a room, I turn and I face this wall, and the woman's with me, kind of helping me get all the items that I wanted. And I basically was like, "What is that? Like, what is this?" And she said it was all pieces that were basically antique, and they're the last of their kind. And there was this one that it basically leapt off the wall at me, and it's a tree of life on a what she said is at least 30 years old papyrus. And most of the papyruses that they have there, they'll roll up and they'll put in tubes. So, like, you get like I have two of them, one because I got a gift for someone, and then two that are mine. So small little rolls. Well, I get told that because this is an antique, they cannot roll it up. So they're going to have to create a flat, like a flat envelope. But they don't have anything that's big enough. So they had to take 4 envelopes and cut them all up to put them together and then tape it all together. So it was this very large, like I could put it under my arm and like kind of like carry it under my arm, like lengthwise. But now this is this is going to be interesting getting it back to the United States, like carrying this around to airports and everything. And so we then go. So after this, we're hungry. We want some coffee, or whatever. We got big into lattes and Americanos. I don't know why, but that was the thing that we got into. And we wanted falafel. So our tour guide found you wouldn't, it was a hookah, like a hookah smoke shop, like, but it was this big building, and then all these different tables and chairs and cushions and everything. And so we go in there to have coffee and eat our falafel. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I kind of want a hookah. Now, keep in mind, I used to hookah. I have one. It's broken. I don't know how to get it fixed. So I've had it since I was at least, I don't know, 20 years. And I think the last time I engaged in hookah was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But I was like, I'm in Egypt. Like, and Nara and Patty had never done hookah before. And I was like, let's do it. Like, let's get one. And so we did. And it was just like riding a bike. And I'm trying to teach them like how to do it. And you know, they struggled a little bit, but they, you know, they experienced it. And it was a first for them. It was great. And then after that, we went back to the hotel. Keep in mind, had to get in a boat and go back across the river. Now, I will say that when we had gone over to Karnak that morning, we had to go out the pathway to the wooden dock because the what do you want to call it? The tide was low enough that we couldn't do the stone. We had to walk out this path, this gravel path. Got a gravel path and then walk across this like 2 or 3 plywood length board to then get onto this wooden dock to then get onto the boat. When we came back in, I can't remember if we ended up in at the one that's all the way in or back at the wooden dock, but we had at least gotten on the wooden dock once with no problem. I'm just going to put that out there. So we get back, and that's the same day, the same afternoon. Like we did so much. It was incredible how much I was not tired. I mean, I was taking melatonin and going to bed like 9, 10 o'clock at night and then waking up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning wide awake. And like we would do. But even in Luxor, it didn't feel like a lot. It felt more expansive than in Cairo. So yeah, we went to the temple. Yeah, we went to go shopping. Yeah, we hung out at a thing. And then in the afternoon, we have a photo shoot. Like it did not seem like a big deal. And so we had our photo shoot at the hotel, the palace, that afternoon, and the photographer came to us. Sweet woman, loved her so much. And I was so excited. I was like getting into my goddess energy. I put on my music that I like to listen to, and I like did all my makeup, and I was feeling good about my hair, and the dress that I had picked was just like, oh, so excited. And Patty went first, and I was going second, and I don't know what happened, but I got real nervous. And the photographer and I were not clicking. She was wanting me to do different things that I just wasn't wanting to do. She wanted me to have a scarf over my head. And of course, keep in mind, for those of us in America, we use Fahrenheit. It was like 85 degrees. And this is like heat of the day, 3:30. And she's wanting me to have a scarf on my head. And I get really hot very easily. And so I did a few of them. And then I was like, nope, like I'm not into this. She's trying to give me direction to do different things. And I'm just like, I'm starting to get frustrated. She's showing me some of the photos and it's not translating the way I want it to. I start getting in my head around, this is about to be a disaster. I'm not going to get any photos out of this. Like I heard myself like go down this path. And she decides to put music on, but she puts on this like really upbeat Arabic music. And that's just nails on a chalkboard for me. And I'm just like, and I'm getting more like frustrated. I almost started crying. And again, like I said before about how quickly I was moving through things, I had this moment of like, no, Natalie, like you wanted to show up in your priestess, goddess, fierce power within this photo shoot. act like it. And so I was like, can you turn off your music? And she did. And I got my phone and I put on my music and I turned it all the way up. And I was like, okay. And I was like, look, this is what I'm after. And of course, there's a language barrier, but I was like, priestess, goddess. And she said, royal. And I said, yes, that's what I'm after. And she's like, oh, because she was wanting me like hold my earring, like hold my hand to the side and do this stuff, you know. And I was just in like the thing over my head. I'm like, no, like that's like Mother Mary, Mother Teresa. Like, no, that's not what I'm after. And so all of a sudden it just like clicked. And did all the photos turn out great? No. But we started to have, and then she wanted me to move. She wanted me to start making movement and just like do things with my hands. And I'm like, oh, my energy work. Like, so I had a moment. She didn't get it on photo. She got it on video. She did some video stuff, but I did some energy work, and that really shifted things for me. And all of a sudden, just like photo after photo after photo, I was like, oh my God, yes, 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 yeah. Like it was incredible. Like the way that I was able to shift it, and she was willing to be patient with me and to hear what I was saying and to match what I was, trying to do. And her direction changed, what she was directing me to do and how she was directing me to do it. And at one point she's all like, play with your hair, move your hair. And there's a couple of really cool photos of like me with my hand up in my hair. And then we got to this place where we were inside I will say the manager of the hotel. Her energy is just, I feel sorry for the land. And I think we did what we could to support the land, but the manager of that place is like, her energy is just so stifling and so limiting. She didn't want us in certain places in the hotel. She confined us to a certain place and we couldn't be in the rooms. And so her security guards were basically following us around and like watching us, and because Patty went first and Patty went in the room. So the photos that you've seen of me where it's like through a screen, it's I'm in the room and she's outside taking a photo of me in the room. But they thought she was going, like, they freaked out. Like, no, you can't. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing. Like, so there was a lot of like stress with the security guard and the manager around our thing. So I think that might have also played a part in all of it. But it ended up being incredible. It ended up being an incredible experience. And I walked away feeling very proud of myself for how, number one, how quickly I was able to get out of my victimhood, anxiety, human doom and gloom, and into my priestess goddess power. So I feel like I want to pause real quick before we move on.
Yeah, I'm like so proud of you, because when I'm seeing those photos, I would have no clue that any of that was going on. Like, you looked so at ease. You looked so at peace. You were glowing. You were radiant. Like, the true essence of you came through in those images.
Because I didn't show you the first like 10 photos.
No, but what I'm saying before is like, Natalie, like when I just met you, like, like it would have ruined your whole day. Like, there wouldn't have been a shoot. There wouldn't have been those photos. So it's like showing you that, like seeing that growth in you. Mm-hmm. Like, I want you to really honor that and like exclamation mark, highlight, it was beautiful to see now, knowing that,
Yeah. Yeah.
So what were you supposed to learn from that? Like, why was that a divine gift? Because you've had all these experiences and they've all taught you something. So what were you meant to learn in that whole experience?
I think, it's another example, which I think happened throughout starting with, I wouldn't say necessarily starting with, but a big issue, issue, a big situation with the jewelry. And then this, and then it happened again, is that, and this is where we kind of bringing it back to like our podcast, right? Honoring the human while reaching our limitless potential, is that the human's going to freak out. Like there's no getting rid of that. There will never be a time where in any experience that we have, our human's not going to show up and have anxiety, have fear, have worry, have disappointment, have guilt, shame, embarrassment, anger, frustration. Like that's not ever going to happen. It's really about acknowledging it and noticing it and recognizing it for what it is, and then choosing how you want to move forward. It's always a choice in terms of how long you want to stay in it, how you want it to play out, how you want it to define you, what story you want to tell. And so it was me like having that awareness, having that reminder that this isn't about having a flawless photo shoot. This isn't about having a flawless experience. It's about, you're going to have jitters. You're going to have those things that are going to come up. How do you want to take care of yourself? How do you want to move through it? How do you want to communicate? Where's your sacred yes? Where's your sacred no? There was things that she wanted me to do that I was willing to try. I was like, okay, I'll try that. And there was times where I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I didn't say it necessarily like that, but like, there was definitely like a no, I'm not doing that. But she'd give me something to do. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll try that. And so it was, where am I honoring myself, honoring the entire experience? Where am I honoring my human and my soul? To create that magic. And that's what I told her. I was like, we created magic. And part of creating magic is the gunk. It's not all about the sunshine and roses. It is going to be about the yuck and the muck and the dirtiness. That's how, think about a diamond, right? In order for a diamond to exist, there's a lot of pressure, but it starts off as a very yucky looking rock. Yeah.
So good. So good.
Okay, so next agenda item. I wasn't sure that I wanted to go on the hot air balloon ride. I was kind of like,
Wow.
I don't know. It was weird because all the way up until the trip, I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I get to Egypt and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it. Patty was all for it. She's like, I'm doing it. I'm going. And we found out like the cost, and I was like, you know what? That's not that expensive. It was like $45. Yeah. And that included a pickup from the hotel to the location, and then the entire ride minus tip, obviously, and then a ride back. We had to get up super early in the morning. I think we were up at 5:45. We had to leave at 6. We decided to do the second, instead of being sunrise, which was like way earlier than that. We decided to do the second slot, and so we didn't have to leave until 6. So I was able to see the sunrise. So it was kind of cool in the morning, and then it was really cool to watch the hot air balloons that were up before us as we were, driving over there. And so we get there, and it was so cool watching their process. I mean, and there's, 20 different hot air balloons, right? And so 20 different set groups of people, and, they've got a well-worn machine of a crew. So you have your captain, and then you have like everybody else around, and, watching people coming down and how they, how they give you direction on what to do. And then the setup and the taking down of the hot air balloons. Like, it was just like, it was cool to watch. And our captain told us that we were going to probably go up to about 1,000, maybe 1,500 feet in the air, and then probably about half an hour, 45 minutes or so, give or take, depending on, the weather. And so off we went. And that was really freaking cool. And he actually ended up, at one point, he told us we were over 2,000 feet. Yeah, it was really cool. But the thing I forgot to mention was that the night before, because we were planning after the hot air balloon ride, we were going to go to, on the West Bank is where all of the burial sites, so like what's called the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens, and there's a couple of temples and other sites. And so we were going to go do all of that, not all of it, but we were going to do several of them. And we had originally we were going to go to, and I always say her name wrong, Queen Hatshepsut. Oh my gosh, Hatshepsut. No, I can never say her name. I can never pronounce her name right. But there's this very famous queen that has her own temple. And we were originally going to go there. And the night before, someone, I don't know who Anara had spoken to, but someone had mentioned that there's this other temple that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but is spectacular. And it's called the Habu Temple. And so I was like, okay, well, let's try that out. We like doing off beaten path stuff. Like, we don't really want to be around a bunch of tourists. And then later that evening, one of our waiters that had been taking care of us, that, you know, we'd been having dinner at the hotel. So one of our waiters had made some comment to Anara. We hadn't been, Patty and I weren't there at the time. She had sat down, was getting tea, and had a conversation with this young gentleman who had said that his favorite temple is the Habu Temple because it is in honor of Sekhmet. And he also mentioned that he had a new business, a coffee shop, the only coffee shop at the temple that was opening up. And so it kind of felt kismet, right? So here we are having this relationship with Sekhmet, and then we're being told 2 different times by 2 different people about this temple and that it's related to her. And so let's go. So we are in the hot air balloon. It says Patty and myself. Anara didn't come with us on the hot air balloon ride. So it was Patty and myself, and the captain's kind of pointing out to us, oh, there's this and there's that and there's that. And all of a sudden I hear him say, oh, and there's Habu Temple. And I'm like, what? Where? Show me. And so and we were, I mean, we were over it a lot. Like, you know, yes, the hot air balloon kind of moved around in a circle. And so we got different angles and stuff, but I kept seeing it and I kept taking photos of it. And it's this huge temple. It's massive. And so that was really cool, is that, like, you know, we kept hearing Habu, Habu, Habu. And so after the hot air balloon ride, we get back and have an amazing because this is our last day at the hotel. We're moving to another hotel after this, and so we're there for a few nights. And so we get in a taxi to take us, like a guided, you know, well, it's our own private van to take us to Habu Temple. And we get there and we go in, and this is where there are 2 statues of Sekhmet on either side of this walkway. And they have been defigured. Arm cut off, hands cut off, face defigured. It's sad. There's a post I'm going to make soon with one of the statues. And then there's a post I made recently where there's this very large statue, I would assume of a king or a pharaoh, and like from his chest up is gone. And I made a post about how hateful people can be. And anyway, so there's a lot of destruction to this temple, to statues particularly. There is another set of statues farther in the temple, towards the back of the temple, that also had been like faces, like, you know. And what we had found out was when, you know, colonial people came through, they would burn the wood, they would burn the stone, because burning the stone makes it more brittle and makes it easier to chisel away at.
Hmm.
So that's what they used to do. And farther away, there is this other, like, two very large statues of King Ramses. I think it was Ramses. Like, very large. We're talking, I mean, almost, I wouldn't say skyscraper, but at least 10 stories tall.
Oh, wow.
Um, and they had, faces cut off. Like, I'll send you some photos.
Mhm.
But it's like the whole entire region was just, it was sad. I mean, it was beautiful to be there, but a lot of pain.
Hmm.
Um, and so we go into this temple and we're walking around and we're taking photos and looking at things, and just, again, the carvings and the intricacies, and it was just incredible. And all of a sudden, Anar is telling us, I found a gentleman who's going to take us to a private place. She has a way of doing this. And so this gentleman in a robe, it takes us past this blockade thing into this little room that is another shrine for Sekhmet.
Wow.
It doesn't have a statue in there, but it is, he said it's a room that was completely dedicated to her. And he wanted us to, like, put our hands and our foreheads on the wall. And I remember the moment I did that, I just started crying. It was just like this immediate, just like flood of emotion. It was just such a powerful space. And so the three of Anara led us through another guided journey, another meditation that was just incredible. Um, and I knew that they were going to want us to tip them, and he was going to want us to tip him. And I was happy to. I mean, I was so in joy of wanting to give him a tip. And all of a sudden, another gentleman all of a sudden shows up. Don't know where he came from. He wasn't part of the initial interaction, but he's wanting us to give him a tip too. I'm like, I'm a little more reluctant at this point, but I'm like, okay, sure, I can give him a tip. We think that's the end of it. He then takes us to this other place that is a complete gate that we have to climb up and over. And all of a sudden, the security guard who saw us, like, in the first private place is now, like, following us. And the guy in the robes are like, come, quick, quick. And we're like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. And so we're, like, climbing over this fence that's, like, up to my chest at least, that having to, like, climb
Mhm.
over and into this little, like, alcove place. And it's this long room that's all stone. It's a rectangular box of straight edges, cornered off in, like, maybe like a very large mausoleum
Hmm.
that's just floor to ceiling carvings, and the top of the ceiling. And I remember I leaned up against the wall and I put the palms of my hand, like, back down on the wall, and all of a sudden my hands just start, like, vibrating. Or I'm talking, like
Hmm.
vibrating. It was incredible. And I just stood there and I just breathed and I was like, as my hands are, like, vibrating on the wall. And it was, they left us alone. It was just the three of us. The guy didn't come in with us. He just kind of ushered us up and over the gate and then, like, went off. And so we were in there for a good, like, 5-10 minutes, just, like, soaking up the energy of this space. It was incredible. I don't know who gets to go in there. Either one of those spots, completely blocked off. And so then, and I knew as we were leaving, he's going to want more tip. And at this point, again, money wound. And I mean, I wouldn't say at this point, it's no longer a wound, right? But recognizing the money thing and having a moment of, like, I really enjoyed giving him money the first time. I was not expecting this. This is now a gift, right? That felt like an exchange. And I understood that. And I was totally willing. This now felt like a gift that I was not asking for, did not expect. And now he's wanting money. And he's wanting us to give everyone their money.
Hmm.
And I said, no. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And at one point he goes, like, money for everyone. And Anar, like, we're all like, what? Like, no.
Yeah.
And I had a choice in that moment. I had a choice to give in, because I do. The guilt shows up and the feeling bad and the, am I a wrong person? Am I a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm being greedy and selfish and all those voices that are coming in, and the peer pressure, right? And I also recognized a moment where I almost felt like I felt the need to explain myself as to why I was saying no. And again, it happened very quickly. It was this moving from the human, oh no, to the no. This no longer feels like joy. This no longer feels like love. This feels very transactional and like you're taking from me. And that's not how money wants to work with me. And this is just with me. I'm not saying this to anybody.
Yeah.
This is just
Right.
with me.
Right.
I'm like, whatever path and journey Anara and Patty are on, they need to take care of themselves. And if
Right.
they choose that they want to give money, and they did, they gave extra money. I was like, I don't have to do that. That's I'm on my own journey. And I'm not going to feel bad. And so I walked away without giving any extra money. And that also felt like very powerful for me to be in that. So then we left and we went out to the coffee shop.
One more
And
second. One quick question. Well, not quick.
yep.
Big question. What do you think like the medicine of those rooms and those spaces were for you? Because I know you're saying like you were overtaken with emotion. If you feel comfortable sharing and you felt the energy as you placed your hands on the wall, like what was moving through you in that moment? What was the medicine in that moment? I'm just curious.
That was me giving back to the earth. As much as the guided journey, and at this point I don't remember what she said. I remember a little bit about the one at Karnak Temple, but this one I do not remember. It felt very powerful, whatever it was that we did, but I do not remember. All I remember was the feeling, and it didn't feel as though, like, yes, all the activations were for us, but it really felt like with this one that this was more so the energy that she was facilitating was moving through me and back through the land. It really felt like a co-creation with the temple and the land, for more of a deeper healing, that also too felt, how do I say this? It was fascinating because there were several different times throughout this journey where I was providing energy to the land and it felt inadequate. I know that's not true, but I think that the bigness of the space and my human believing that I'm just one person, but also to the, not so much the who do you think you are, but more so there isn't enough kind of vibe that showed up in my human. And at the same time, again, there's that, like with Cairo, there's that subtle, quiet, soft, light, but also very deep, very powerful kind of energy that was exuding through me. That there was a part of me that knew this is more than, and I'm giving just enough. I'm doing just enough. I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing, and no more, no less. But it was very, it felt, I don't know how to describe it other than like, really, that's it. That's like, did I do anything? Kind of feeling, but yet deeply knowing, yes, I did.
Amazing.
Yeah. So here things ramp up real fast. So we go over to the coffee shop, and our friend, well, now friend, new friend is there. And we order coffee and he sits down with us and we're talking and we're listening to him. And he's so insightful and also very passionate, very giving, very on his own spiritual path. He has an enlightenment to him, very much into meditation, very much into spirituality and connection to Sekhmet and the path that he's on and the ambition that he has, the things that he wants to do with his life, and what he wants to create. And at one point, he brings over homemade incense. That's loose form incense. And so he mixes it all up and he divvies it up into 3 to give to each one of us. And, we're just chatting. And then at some point he gets quiet for a moment and he gets kind of like contemplative. And then he says out loud, I want you to come home. I want you to come to my home and I'll make you dinner. Like he wanted to like cook for us. He wanted to have us over for dinner. And the 3 of us kind of looked at each other really quickly. And there was just a knowing of yes. Like, yeah, we'll do that. That sounds great. And I had been talking about wanting to get a scarf. I wanted to go shopping and getting a Egyptian cotton, scarf. And he told me, he's like, don't go shopping. I will get you a scarf. And I was like, okay, I will receive. I'm in receivership. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, but I was like, okay, like I can receive. So, we exchanged WhatsApp, information, and Nara and I, did that with him. She didn't have cell service. So like I had international plans. So I got the number when she had Wi-Fi, I gave it to her. So she had it. So we had both of our numbers. And we made plans of like, okay, I think it was going to be the full moon. So it was Friday. I think we're at Thursday now. It's either Wednesday. No, it's Wednesday. Time is weird. I think it might have been Wednesday or it was Thursday at this point. I can't remember. It was Thursday night. We ended up doing Thursday night. So we had made plans that we were going to get together for Thursday night. And of course he's reminding us that like, well, actually the full moon, like the fullest is the night before. Like it's not actually the day of the full moon, the fullest of it. It's like, okay, good to know. We forgot about that. So we say our goodbyes. We go I think we did the Valley of the Queens, which was cool. That was really amazing seeing the artwork on, in these like, tunnels. And we're talking in the side of a mountain, straight walls and ceiling, like as in a house. Imagine being in a house. Like right now, I'm looking at the walls. I'm looking at the ceiling. I'm looking at the connections between the walls and the ceilings. And imagine that being all stone in the side of a mountain.
Wow.
Like we're talking a walkway. And then every wall has carvings and paint. Like when I say paint, like color. Like there was color. It blew my mind. Just incredible. And so there's all these different, and so this is where the burials were, right? So people were buried in their tombs in these, Valley of the Kings and then Valley of the Queens. And so we did that, and then we went back to the hotel, and I'm getting hungry. I'm getting a little tired. We have to wait to leave, and I think this is now 1:30, and we're not leaving until 2:30, I think. So we're hanging out for a little bit. I want something to eat, but nothing sounds good, so I'm just kind of chilling out, and we're sitting out in our little garden area. And I, for some reason, don't know why, but I thought that we would be leaving the hotel from the west side and taking a taxi on solid ground to our hotel. Come to find out, by the way, all of our luggage is up these flight of stairs to the lobby, which is like up this like kind of mountainish thing. And we come to find out that we actually have to take a boat across the river.
You've already checked out at this point.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
plan with this man is like after you're checking into a new hotel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so he knew,
Oh.
and he's like, I'll pick you up because he said, where are you staying? And we told him we were.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I know that. He's like, I'll come pick you up. Like, I'll take care of you. So he was aware that we were going to be someplace else. So we're being told like, yes, you're going to have to take a boat across the river, and we're going to take your bags and get them to the boat, and don't worry, because we're like, our bags are all the way, because we had to check out. So they held onto our bags at the lobby while we went and did all the temples and stuff. So I'm immediately agitated. And I'm just annoyed. I'm like, this is effing stupid. Like, I'm just like, I just immediately like annoyed.
And you're hungry, so I'm sure that contributed a little bit too, right?
Yeah. Looking back though, I don't really want to put it all on the manager, but she really she did a doozy of her, whatever her energy is. It's this black cloud over the entire location. And there was just something about her and the last day that just was really getting to me. And us leaving and going across the river, I mean, looking back on it now, I see what it was.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, fine. All right, this is happening. And of course, I have my papyrus in this like big envelope, and I'm not letting anybody touch it. Like, nope, I'm carrying it. So, and of course I have my purse. I have a carry-on kind of satchel that had like my airplane pillow, my airplane blanket. I had some like odds and ends in the bag. So I have my purse with my phone and my wallet and all my electronic kind of stuff. And then I have my 2 suitcases, and they have their suitcases, and I have my papyrus. So we're walking, and of course we have to walk down the path to get to the wood dock, because I'm looking at, as we're waiting for the boat to show up and all of our luggage to come down, with 6 men came and helped us, like, with the 6-7 bags and all the things. Like, they came down with us to get our luggage. They wouldn't let us touch our luggage. They're very much into the whole, I will take care of that for you. So again, feminine receivership, letting the men take care of us. So we're waiting at the edge of the first dock area. That's the stone steps, and the water is low. It's like, yeah, there's no way a boat would come in here. So we have to walk down the gravel path, and we're watching as like 2 men are taking my bags and Patty's bag to along the path. And so Patty and I start following them, and Nara's behind me. There's a guy with Nara's bag behind her, and then maybe 3 other guys were kind of lingering around. I'm not really, I don't have that awareness in my mind. But we get to the dock, and in this wooden dock, and I'm watching it, like, it's moving. And I'm thinking in my mind, I don't remember if that moved last time we were on it. And I'm watching as the 2 guys have the bags that are kind of moving a little bit and kind of rolling. And I'm like, oh God, those are gonna end up in the water, kind of thing. I have this moment of this thought. Patty's in front of me, and Patty goes to step on the dock, and she's kind of moving. And I go to put my foot on it, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna get on. I'm gonna wait. And the guy, and Anara's like right behind me, and the guy behind Anara is telling us to just go, keep going, keep getting, because the boat's now there. The boat's there. We're gonna get our stuff and get on the boat. So I'm like, okay, like, I'll get on the dock. And so I did, and I went to go stand in a corner in front of Patty's bag. And all of a sudden, like, I start feeling the thing tilting, and Patty's bag like comes towards me. And I go to push it back, and I go to step back, but it wasn't enough. And all of a sudden, it's just, the whole just capsizes. And I don't know, I don't recall, because again, did not submerge. I did not get my hair wet, but I think I basically just went straight vertical down. There was no like toppling. There was just like all of a sudden I'm on the dock, and then the next second I'm in the water.
Oh my gosh.
And right. And all of a sudden, like, hell breaks loose. And it's like this, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I think I remember screaming, like, like as I'm like, holy crap. And Patty ended up in the boat, because I do not recall, like it's tunnel vision. I do not remember exactly all that happened, but all of a sudden Patty's in the boat facing me, as like, I'm in the water, basically kind of treading water. I mean, I have my hand on the boat, but I'm basically treading water, and the boat's like up high. Like, so I'm going to have to like someone's going to either pull me up, or I'm going to have to like pull myself up. And I have no awareness other than my papyrus. I have no awareness about anything that's with me. And Patty's like yelling at me. She's like, give me your bag, give me your bag. And I'm realizing like, oh, my bag with my cell phone and my wallet and my car keys and all the things. And so I pull off my thing and I give it to her. But I'm trying to get my papyrus in the fucking boat.
Yeah.
Because I do not want it getting wet. And again, most of these men do not speak English. And so they're holding on to my wrist, and they're like trying to pull me up, and I'm like trying to tell them, let me go, let me go, let me go, because I'm trying to like get my papyrus, like, to get them to take it. I cared more about it than me.
Yeah.
And so, and they're like pulling it in, but like folding it over and like crumple. And I'm like, no, just like, I'm freaking out about it. Meanwhile, Inara is basically, somehow she was able to get because the way that it capsized is that there was a railing. And so now that it's capsized, there's a railing that's now perpendicular to the water, and she has latched herself onto that, and then latched her feet like she's an upside down monkey, and she was holding on for dear life. She does not want to get in the water. She like, not at all. And so, and she's screaming and she's screaming. And at some point, the security guard jumped into the water. And the way that the situation is that like, I'm on one side of the dock, and Nara's on the other side, and the boat is like right in front of me. And there's no space to get through me to get to somebody else. So the security guard is basically on the other side of the railing by me, like doing nothing. Like, I don't know why he bothered to get in the water. You're not helping. You're not doing anything.
Oh God.
And so once I got the papyrus in the boat, and I tried to get it to a place where they weren't sitting on it and standing on it, and like, can you just move it across the other side of the boat? And I got them to let go of my hands, and like, let go of me. And I just was holding on to the side of the boat, and I was just like, I had this moment, this full on just peaceful moment of, yep, this is happening. I'm in the Nile. And I'm thinking to myself, because Inara is still screaming and she's still holding on for dear life, and I'm thinking to myself, Inara, just get in the fucking water. So I just I'm like, just get in the water. And it wasn't even that cold. Like, it wasn't even that bad. It was just like, it is what it is. I am fully clothed and I am fully in the water. And I had my Birkenstocks on, my brand new Birkenstocks that I bought specifically for this trip. And they'd already been like all over the pyramid, like walking all over all the land. And now they are in the Nile. And I just had this, in this entire moment, I can hear Sekhmet, and she's just chuckling. Because in that moment in the water, I'm like, you fucking pushed us in. Like, I just, and she's all like, I did. You're welcome.
So hilarious.
You're welcome is all I heard her say. You're welcome. And so I pulled my Birkenstocks off and I threw them in the boat because I'm like, I am not going to lose my shoes,
Yeah.
right? And so, but I knew that like, however I was going to get in this boat, I'm very likely to have them fall off my feet. So I
Yeah.
pulled them, I like reached down in the water, pulled them off one by one, threw them in the boat, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And so I had the dock right up against my body. And I end up having a very large bruise on my back, like very, very large bruise on my back. It's still there. It's not feel fully healed, but it's getting there. And so I was like, I'm going to try to like get my feet on the back of the dock and try to like push myself up. So anyways, I ended up, the two gentlemen who had originally tried to help me, like pulled me up. And at one point I just remember laying, like I wasn't fully in the boat. I had gotten myself, so I was on the boat. I was out of the water, but I had my legs, like I was laying out flat with half my body in the boat and my legs, my other half, like outside of the boat. And I was so exhausted that I couldn't move. And I just found myself laughing. I was just like, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding me. Like, who does this happen to? Right. So, we all ended up in the boat. They wanted us to go back to the dock for some reason. We were just like, we gotta go. Like, just let us go. Like, we're like, what are you gonna do? Like, you know, the manager supposedly wanted to come down and talk to us. She never did. I knew she was gonna blame us. I knew it. I knew that the moment that this happened, that it was gonna be our fault somehow. And sure enough, later on, we found out that yep, we shouldn't have been on the dock to begin with. It's your freaking dock. But anyway. So, if we weren't supposed to be on it, you should have had a sign. Or should have had it closed off. Your staff should have known.
Correct.
Right. But anyway, so, we get to the other hotel. I'm just like drenched, like whatever. It is what it is. It's fine. And the other hotel is like a resort. Had multiple pools. It was kind of like they had like buffet style, like big, different restaurants. So they had like a Italian restaurant, an Egyptian restaurant, a seafood restaurant, like a Chinese restaurant. And then they had this big buffet, lots of different pools. They had a spa. There. And as soon as I realized I am bruised all over and my shoulder hurts, my whole body hurts, especially on my entire right side, which is fascinating. Patty and I were like, let's go treat ourselves to a spa. So we made plans for Friday. It was like a 2-hour spa situation, signed up for it. And I wasn't feeling very good. Like my whole body hurt. And I'm thinking to myself, on Thursday, maybe I need to push up, to do Thursday instead of Friday. But I ended up taking a lot of pain reliever, anti-inflammatory meds. I brought a bunch of meds with me just in case something like this would happen. I mean, not like this, but like if I need pain meds, and I need cold medicine, and I need, anti-diarrhea, anti-nausea. Like I brought all. And so, so that night I was like, I need a drink. So I went to the bar, got a drink, had Egyptian whiskey for the first time. And then, we had a nice, lovely dinner. And then
I thought you were supposed to go to see your friend there, the coffee man.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Not there yet.
Okay.
So this is Wednesday, right? So this is Wednesday that all happened. And it was funny because like he wasn't there when it happened. But when we were at the dock, like we went back to the second dock and we're just like, okay, can we go? Can we go? Can we go? As we start leaving, he all of a sudden, we see him coming down and he's standing there like, what the heck happened? And we're like, hi, went for a dip in the Nile. And so we leave, right? And so Thursday we decided, you know what, chill day. Like it was pool day. Like we just like hung out at the pool, did basically nothing. It was very spacious. It was very wonderful. And that night we were meant to go with him. And so we made arrangements to do that. He came and picked us up. And he rented a taxi for us. And it's on an island. The resort was on this little island in the Nile. And it's a long way from the gate to the hotel, and he couldn't come through the gate. He wasn't allowed to come through the gate. So we had to go out there. Well, we got a what do you want to call it?
Go-kart?
Go-kart. Yeah. Golf cart. Security person to come help take us out to the thing. And the entire time he's like, where are you going? Who are you going with? Wait, it's a friend, someone who lives here in Luxor. Like, there was a sense of there appeared to be a concern that 3 women were leaving the compound.
Yeah.
Keep in mind earlier that as we were getting ready, and I will say that my 2 retreat friends, Anara and Patty, kept teasing me about this gentleman, thinking that he had a thing for me. And I'm like, I'm married, I'm happily in a relationship, like this is never going to happen. But they kept teasing me about like him and liking me or something. And so as I'm getting ready after being at the pool, number one, I slipped on water in the bathroom, and I stubbed my toe in the bathtub.
Oh boy.
And then I went into the closet to get my outfit out, and I jammed my thumb in between the 2 doors. And in the span of 5 minutes. And so immediately I'm like, is this a sign?
Yeah.
Am I not really supposed to be going? Like, is this an omen? But I ignored it, and I was like, no, we're fine. This just means I need to pay attention. I need to slow down, like be more present. I'm fine. So, and then of course there's the guy, like, where are you going? Who are you going with? What's this? What's happening? And so we get out to the gate, and he's waiting for us, and he's in his nice robe. Like we've seen him in his work clothes, and now he's in his like traditional robe. And we get into, and Egyptian men are very, let's go. Like, okay, let's go. We're doing it, right? Like, just very
direct. Yeah.
So we get in the van and we're driving away, and everything seems fine. And then we keep driving, and we keep driving, and we keep driving. And he's sitting in a seat with Anara, and then I'm sitting in a row by myself, and then Patty's behind me. And I turn and I look at Patty, and we both have this moment of like, are we about to be on Dateline? Like, what did we just do? Like, what? We just got into a van with a stranger. 3 women in a foreign country, and we have no idea where we are. And so my human, immediate panic. I'm like, oh my God. Like, okay, what would need to happen if I were to call somebody? How would I even tell them where I am? Wait, like, I have no idea. Like, how do I even tell them the street name? I don't even know. Right. So, and he keeps getting phone calls. He keeps getting, like, his phone's ringing. He's picking up the phone, talking in Arabic. Like, I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so I just have this moment of getting back, and I pull my power back, and I'm like, okay, Sekhmet, like, you are facilitating this for sure. You better show up. And I want you to protect us. And so I just started doing energy work, and I like created a bubble around Nara. I created a bubble around me. I created a bubble around Patty. And I was just like, we are held. We are protected. Like, we are safe. And I expect you to keep it that way. We drive over the bridge. So there's a bridge. You can go by water. There's now a new bridge. And so we go from the East Bank to the West Bank. So now we're in the West Bank. And we're just driving down streets. And all of a sudden we end up in the middle of nowhere. And he opens up the van door. We get out, and there's like this building like off to the side, but it's dark. And there's all of a sudden mountains on one side of us and like nothing. And he had asked Anara to bring her singing chalice, her singing bowl chalice with her, because he wanted her to do a meditation with him and with us. And so we're walking on gravel, and I jokingly say out loud, I'm like, you didn't bring us out here to murder us, did you? Literally what I said. And he's all like, no, like, just automatically, like, just, and that was me just trying to like cut the, the energy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he brings us to this space, and it's it possibly could have been a building, but now it's just this brick wall that's like a foundation, and it's dark, right? We're now, it's 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden we see this mat, this big mat, and these pillows and these candles, and there's very large carved statue of Sekhmet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
At his home.
No.
Oh.
He's on property that his brother owns.
Okay.
So we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, because I thought he said he was going to make you dinner at his home. No.
Originally,
Okay.
yes, and
Got it.
this became the plan.
Okay.
So he orchestrated this entire thing, including he forgot a lighter, so his cousins came out. And then at some point he says to us, do you want to go to the home to have dinner, or would you like to have dinner here? As in like barbecue. As in they're about to light a fire and like cook our meal on the barbecue. And we're like, let's just have food here. So then they brought the food, and then the two cousins, one of which is 17, cute kid, came and cooked for us.
Wow.
Homemade. There's this thing it's called stuffed zucchini, and what it is it's this tomato paste with rice and lots of seasonings, lots of spices, and then it is like the inside of the zucchini is carved out and the rice is shoved in, and then it's baked. I could eat that all day long.
Wow.
Like if it were possible to do that and grapevines and falafel, like I'd eat that all day long.
Wow.
Especially Egyptian. His mom made it. It was really freaking sweet. And so his cousin apparently carved this statue. I can't remember what it was made out of, but it was some stone. It was some black stone. I can't remember what it was, but carved the statue. It's like takes 3 people to move it. It's that heavy. And they brought it from the cousin's house to this plot of land. And so Anara moved us through another initiation, and it was under the full moon. It was like the full moon was so freaking bright. You didn't really need any light. It was incredible. And we were out there for hours. And we had wanted to go to an alabaster factory. We had heard about that, and we mentioned it to him, and he's like, I have a friend. I'll have him open up the place. Like we had a private viewing of this alabaster. Well, it was a big shop. It wasn't just alabaster, but this very big shop. He also had a room. It was almost like museum style of pieces that were over 80 years old. I found a Sekhmet statue that was like $2,000, and I'm like, nope. I've already spent money on my jewelry. Like,
yeah,
don't need a $2,000 statue. I mean, she was like that big, but we're talking, ancient. So, we did that. And then he brought us back to our hotel. No scarf. He told me that he'd get me one the next day, and I was like, it's fine. I don't need it. I don't need it. But yeah, so that was incredible. It's shocking. I mean, Patty and I still talk about how shocking it is that we just like very innocently trusted a gentleman we'd never met before, just based on his energy, just based on how he was, who he was, how he showed up with us. That like, yeah, we'll go where you want to take us. We'll take us anywhere. Like But I had that brief moment of like, oh my God, this is the impulsive Sagittarius Natalie, just like saying yes to whatever and not really thinking it through. And my husband's going to kill me. So yeah, the whole, what are you thinking? It's like, I know. But it's just, all 3 of us recognized how much we just trusted. And Nara is like, I would never, she's like, if I didn't, I would never have allowed that with us if I had thought that. And I was like, no, I know. I'm like, but my human just had a moment of like, holy crap, I'm in a strange country with this stranger. And, but such a kind soul. And I asked for his birthday, and I got his human design. And I ended up doing kind of a reading for him. And he's like, how do you know so much about me? Like, how do you know these things? I'm like, it's because that's my gift. Like so it's kind of cool for me to be able to really dive into, like, stop hiding. Cause like, I'm around the retreat host who, this is her thing. And here I am being very bold and very bright in my light and just letting myself be.
Mm.
Um, and so it was a very magical experience. Again, whether or not we're talking about the individual places, like the sanctuaries or the Nile, or doing this, like, never would have happened if it had been anyone else on the trip. And a once in a lifetime, that'll never happen again, kind of thing. um Friday, so as we got back safe and sound, he wanted to take us to his mom's house. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. And we're like, no. And they party. Like,
Mhm.
Egyptians, especially like on I think it was Thursday night, like that's their wedding night. Like, so everyone's out like partying and having like wedding reception. And so we're like, we're tired. Like, no, we need to go home. Like, next trip we'll see your parents. But it was so sweet. Um, and so Friday was our spa day, and that was otherworldly as well. Um, we started off in a sauna and then moved. And I will say, Patty and I both woke up. I felt hungover,
Mm.
um, but also too, like, in a fog. Like, I woke up Friday feeling very dehydrated, but also too just very like low. Like, we moved through a lot of energy, but it was still feeling kind of stuck. So go to this spa. We do it together. I wasn't expecting us to do the whole entire thing together, but we got real personal real fast. It's like, okay, this is happening. Um, but the two ladies that took care of us were amazing. And so she had wanted to know more about her dragon self. And I was like, I can bring you on a journey if you want. And so the journey happened in the sauna. And then after the sauna, we moved into this steam room, and that whole experience was just like poof, clearing. It's gone. We had a salt rub that I then was like mummified into. Um, I mean, we're talking full sensuality, full receivership, full feminine. There was a jacuzzi. The massage that I got was like, it's called a medical massage, because I told them what had happened, and she's like, oh my god, my bruise. She's like, holy moly. And they're like apologizing to me for what happened to me, and I'm like, it's fine. It's just bruising. I'll be fine. But she moved my body in ways that I've never had anybody move my body before. I woke up the next day just like, I have no pain anymore. Um, it was incredible. So that was amazing. And Friday night was our last night there, because we flew back to Cairo the next day. No, wait. Yes. Yes. I don't really remember the rest of Friday. I don't really remember. Um, but we had a nice dinner. Saturday we got up and we went and we left to go back to Cairo through their interesting airport situation. They don't let you in. You can't get in there more than 2 hours before your flight. So they make you wait outside. If you get there early, you can't get through security. They don't let you into the airport. So we had to wait like 10 minutes. It was weird. And then we stayed at a hotel that's like a huge resort. And of course, we were gonna have to leave at 1:30 in the morning. So Patty and, like, we're like, we're not gonna sleep. The best beds, like, she and I were actually kind of sad. We're like, oh my gosh, these beds are so comfortable. They're the only comfortable beds in the entire trip, and we don't even get to sleep in it. Um, but yeah, we had a last hookah. Um, the tour guide person, he brought me my cartouches. And our photographer of the second photo shoot, she was in Cairo for a photo shoot, and she wanted to come and like give us gifts. And so she gave me a photo of my favorite pose.
Mhm.
And that was a cool experience with all of us. And then we had a last activation with the Nara, with the singing bowl. And I received my queen crown. It's pretty spectacular, like spiritually speaking, pretty spectacular. And it was just a completely like a completion. Felt really good. It was a great ending, but it also felt like, it felt as though we were there forever, like the entire 9 days. It felt like we were there forever. And also time went by so fast. Like I look back, it's only been a week and it feels like a lifetime. And it also feels like how do I say this? Feels like it was forever ago. And it also feels like it was just like that. Like it was like this blip. Um, like we did so much in such a short amount of time, but yet it felt like we had so much space. Like really, we did all those things. It didn't feel like we did all those things. Um, I will say one last thing. I get home and I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't, and I'm talking to Patty. Patty and I are talking, and we're going through this grieving experience, and I don't know how to explain myself. I don't know how to talk to anybody. I don't know what to say. I don't want to say. This is actually the first time I've actually told anybody anything. Um, I haven't even really talked to Lee about any of it yet. He's seen all my photos, and we've talked a little bit about some things, but generally speaking, like I haven't actually shared any stories yet, other than what's on social media, because it's just how do you how do you talk about something that is so profound that you don't even understand? Um, I I redid my altar, doggies. I redid my altar, and it's all Egypt. I brought stones with me. I brought a bunch of different stones, crystals that wanted to come with me, and they're now on my altar. I brought some stones back with me. Don't talk about that. And they're on my altar. I have different things that I gifts. I will say that one thing. My new friend, he gave us gifts. He gave me a statue. Interestingly enough, I received a statue of King Akhenaten, and I didn't understand. I was like, why? Why? Like, because Patty and Anara got Anubis. And I'm like, Anubis, that's my thing, like death. Like, why don't I have? So I had this moment, and I'm like, who the heck is King Akhenaten? Like, I don't even know who this is. What? And all of a sudden, not Patty, Anara's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, he actually tried to like eliminate all of Egyptian spirituality and wanted to create this new spirituality and completely obliterate and exterminate all of Egyptian mysticism.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh. And Anar is like, I think you're supposed to work with him. You're supposed to do healing with him, for that lineage. because here I was the entire time feeling so devastated about all of the destruction by men who were trying to wipe out indigenous beliefs, indigenous culture, and still doing it. And here I am given a gift of one of the biggest, at least I wasn't aware of it, but for people who do know, right, one of the biggest forces during that time frame of some of the horrific things that were done. And I was like, okay, like, here's my work. Here's my work to continue to do. Fascinating enough, I'm still experiencing Egypt in the sense that, and like the things that, like, so falling into the Nile, right? Like the things where there were mishaps, like lots of different mishaps along the way. My oils didn't make it home to me. I have somebody's rugs and somebody has my oils because the shipping company decided to swap. As in, you see the receipt, you see the invoice with my name and my address, and it says oils and glass pieces, and someone crossed it off and wrote carpets. And I'm like, what? Why? I don't understand. Like, who does this? Number one, the dock had never happened before. It had never capsized. It was a very brand new experience. It never happened to anyone before at that location. And then, like, who swaps out shipping? Like, who does that?
It's crazy.
So
How were the rugs? You needed the rugs, apparently.
Right? But also, too, this feels very much like trust, surrender, receive, be willing to take action, and then lean back. So I contacted my travel person, our tour guide, and because I knew he'd help me, I knew he'd figure it out. And I'm like, so we contacted the shipping company, and oops, yep, we did that. And they're going to try to contact the person in the United States who has my stuff. And then we're going to try to figure out a shipping swap. But it's the weekend. So they're like, we'll get back to you on Monday. And it isn't that none of it's replaceable. It's mainly the principle of it all, but also too, like, the oils can be replaced. I purchased some glass pieces that are unique and that were going to be gifts. And so I'm trusting that I'm going to receive the things that I like. Why would this happen? There's a lesson here. There's information here that I don't know about yet that I will find out about when Sekhmet feels like she wants to tell me.
Maybe you're supposed to connect with the people that have your oils.
I don't know. Maybe I told Omar, I'm like, I will call her myself. I'm like, can you give me her number? Like, I will call her.
That's funny.
I will handle it. But they're like, no, we'll do it. And I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, I just have her rugs in a corner, and I'm hoping she's just not, well, let me just dive into all these oils and open everything up and clear, it's just like, I'm hoping she's thinking like I am. And okay, it's going to get figured out. I'm just going to leave this alone. It belongs to somebody. My stuff's someplace. It's going to come back to me. I just need to leave it alone. So, so I feel complete in at least the story. I don't know if there's anything you want to ask or share. Anything that comes up for you.
Feels complete. I want to thank you for sharing that with us, that whole story.
Yeah.
So openly.
I will say that there's definitely more to come. Like, there's in talking with my coach today, that obviously this is just the beginning, and that I activated a lot of my ancientness, my ancient cells, And there's grieving that I haven't yet completed. And there is this new I mean, I'm not the same person that I was. There's a photo that I took at the last Friday. Oh, we went on a boat ride up the Nile, on a nice boat ride up the Nile. No falling in the river. And I took a photo of myself. It was like a last photo that I took. And I feel different. I look different than photos I've taken of myself in the past. And I don't expect people to see it right away. I don't expect people to like know it. But I do feel it. I do feel very different. And it's going to take me some time to process and take me some time to integrate, but I'm really excited for whatever comes next.
I'm
And
so
I'm going to go
excited
back.
for you.
Like, there's so much that I didn't get to, so much that didn't happen that I'm excited to go back at some point. But yeah.
I'm excited for you. And I'm grateful and I'm honored that I was the first person that you told. So thank you so much for telling us. I felt like I was on the journey with you as you told it so beautifully and effortlessly.
Well, thank you for holding space for me and for listening through all that. I appreciate it. It's not easy to go through it all, but you make it easy.
Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And if you feel called to rate and review the podcast, that would mean a lot to us. Follow us on Instagram at the Limitless Human Podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back for another episode in a couple weeks on Thursday. See you then.